Today, we're diving into a huge shift happening in our economy and, well, why the way we're teaching people is falling dangerously behind. We're going to explore a new framework that's designed not just to teach skills, but to build a generation of genuine problem solvers. You know, for decades, industry was all about one thing: automation, building better, faster automated hands to do routine stuff. But now, we're in a totally new era, sometimes called Industry 5.0. And the focus has completely pivoted. The demand isn't for people who can just follow a script anymore, it's for analytical minds that can actually thrive when things get complex and unpredictable.
And that brings us to our first big idea: minds over hands. It's a really simple phrase, but it captures this massive shift in the workforce, moving away from just physical execution and towards cognitive agility.
So let's break that down a bit. The old way, Industry 4.0, was all about perfecting a process you already knew, routine execution. But Industry 5.0, it's defined by real-world ambiguity. It's about tackling problems that don't have a manual. And that means a lot of the skills we've traditionally valued are frankly becoming obsolete.
Okay, so this new demand creates a really serious challenge, what we're calling the preparation gap. There's this growing disconnect between what we teach in the classroom and what the modern world actually needs from people.
And this image just lays it all out, doesn't it? On one side, you have the typical education model. It's linear, it's predictable, with routine tasks and answers you can find in the back of the book. And on the other side, you have reality, a tangled, messy web of complexity and variables you could never predict. We're preparing students for that straight line, and then we're just throwing them into the web. This quote from the source material, it really hits hard. It says, "Conventional instruction actively restricts cognitive adaptability." So, in other words, we're kind of building a cognitive cage, preventing people from developing the skills they need to deal with what the source calls genuine industrial friction. You know, the real stuff, like an unexpected supply chain failure or a machine breaking down in a way that's not in the manual. So, how in the world do we fix this? We need a new cognitive blueprint, something that can act as a bridge over this preparation gap. And that solution is a framework called complex problem solving and decision making, or for short, CPS-DM. Now, this isn't just another teaching method. It's a whole new cognitive foundation. Think of it less like a new textbook and more like a new operating system for the brain. And it's built in 3 distinct but totally interconnected layers. So how do these layers actually work? Well, it all starts at the base with layer 1, authentic, messy, real-world industrial problems, not the clean, simple examples you find in textbooks. Then the core, layer 2, gives you a systematic process, like a mental toolkit to help you navigate that mess. And finally, the apex, layer 3, is a whole new way of assessing someone that measures how they think, not just whether they got the right answer.
So let's look under the hood. What powers this entire framework is something called the 5-phase engine. It's designed specifically to turn chaotic, raw information into clear, intelligent decisions.
And here are the 5 steps that make that engine run. It's a super clear, repeatable process. You start by figuring out what the actual problem is. Then, you analyze the information you have. Next, you evaluate all the different ways you could solve it. From there, you pick the best path forward. And finally, you plan out how to actually make it happen. It's basically a roadmap through the chaos. And you can see that whole flow in action right here. Raw, scattered information goes into the engine. The student is then guided through each of those structured phases, filtering out the noise, weighing the options, committing to a path, until a clear, actionable decision comes out the other side. This is how you build an analytical mind.
Okay, so the framework is impressive, but what about the real-world impact? This is about forging talent that's actually ready for the future, and that has huge implications for everyone involved.
This comparison table really just says it all. The old way? It's all textbook theory. The new way uses authentic, messy industry friction. The old way gives you simple, linear problems. The new way embraces ambiguity and complexity. But here's the most important part. The old way just measures if you can complete a task. The CPS innovation measures if you can make a strategic decision. It's a complete upgrade. And get this, the benefits don't just stop with the student. They actually compound and ripple out across the whole ecosystem. For the student, it makes them a genuine analytical thinker, truly ready for what's next. For schools, it finally bridges that gap between theory and practice. And for industry, it creates a pipeline of adaptable, self-reliant talent. It's a win-win-win. Now this is so much more than just a cool theory. It's a solution that's ready to grow. So the next step is all about scaling this framework from a model into a powerful digital toolkit that could transform education everywhere. The vision here is really clear. Package this entire powerful system into a digital platform. I mean, imagine making these authentic learning scenarios and that 5-phase engine accessible to any school, any training center, or any company that wants to build a truly competent workforce. And there are 2 really clear paths to make this happen. First, a digital learning toolkit that educators can just use right out of the box. And second, an automated assessment platform. Think about it, software that could actually track and score a person's decision-making process in real time. That would be an absolute game changer for both education and corporate training. You know, in the end, everything we've talked about today really boils down to one powerful question. Are we equipping the next generation just to work, or are we equipping them to solve? This is a challenge to all of us, really, to think bigger, because the future doesn't need more people who can follow a script. It needs a generation of thinkers, of innovators, and of true problem solvers.